The ship carrying Ambassador Vance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus system. She stood at the observation window and watched as the ancient space station came into view. It was called the Chamber of Voices, and it was older than most civilizations in the galaxy. The station had been carved from the hollow core of a dead moon. Lights glowed from thousands of windows cut into its surface like stars trapped in stone. Had prepared for this moment her entire life. She had studied every known species. She had learned their languages, their customs, their histories. She knew which ones valued strength and which ones valued cunning. She knew which ones had destroyed entire worlds and which ones had been nearly destroyed themselves. But knowing something and facing it were two different things. Her assistant, a young man named Thomas, stood beside her. He was nervous. She could see it in the way he kept checking his tablet, scrolling through notes he had already memorized. "The Council has been meeting for 9,000 years, Thomas said quietly. "We are the youngest species ever invited to address them." "Invited is a strong word," replied. "We asked to come, they decided to let us speak. There is a difference." The ship docked with a gentle shudder, straightened her uniform, and walked toward the airlock. Behind her, hidden cameras broadcast everything back to Earth. The combined governments of humanity watched through her eyes. 300 billion people across dozens of colony worlds waited to see what would happen next. The airlock opened and stepped into the Chamber of Voices. The corridor was vast. The ceiling rose so high that clouds had formed near the top, tiny wisps of moisture drifting in the artificial atmosphere. The walls were covered in carvings that told the history of the galaxy. Recognized some of the images from her studies. Great wars, fallen empires, species that had risen to power and then vanished, leaving nothing behind but these stone memories. A creature waited for her at the end of the corridor. It stood on 6 legs and had a body like polished metal. Its face, if it could be called a face, was a smooth oval with no features except 2 glowing points of blue light. "I am Facilitator," the creature said. Its voice came from somewhere inside its body, translated into English by the device hanging around its neck. "I will guide you to the council chamber. You will speak only when spoken to. You will not approach the council ring. You will stand on the petitioner's platform until dismissed. Do you understand these rules?" "I understand," said. Facilitator turned and began walking, followed with Thomas close behind her. They passed through dozens of chambers, each one larger than the last, saw other species moving through the station. Some walked on legs, some floated through the air, some crawled along the walls or ceiling. Most of them stopped to look at her as she passed. She felt their curiosity like a weight pressing against her skin. Finally, they reached the council chamber. It was the largest enclosed space had ever seen. The room was shaped like a bowl, with rings of seats rising up the walls in every direction. Each ring belonged to a different species. Counted 12 sections, 12 species, 12 powers that controlled the known galaxy. At the center of the bowl was a small, circular platform. It was raised just high enough that whoever stood on it would be visible to everyone in the room, but low enough that they would have to look up at the council members surrounding them. The petitioner's platform understood the message it sent. "You are small, you are beneath us. Remember your place." She stepped onto the platform and stood straight. She would not bow, she would not look down. Whatever happened here, humanity would face it with dignity. The chamber fell silent. A creature made of crystal and light rose from the highest ring. The High Speaker had studied this species more than any other. They were the oldest members of the council. They had been traveling between stars when humanity was still learning to use fire. They thought in mathematics and spoke in probabilities. They did not feel emotions the way humans did, but they understood power very well. "The council recognizes the presence of the human delegation," the High Speaker said. Its voice rang through the chamber like wind chimes in a storm. "You have requested consideration for associate membership in the Galactic Concord. The council will hear your petition." Took a breath. "Thank you, High Speaker. Humanity comes before this council with respect and hope. We have traveled among the stars for 200 years. We have built colonies on 47 worlds. We have developed technologies that we believe could benefit all species. We seek only peaceful cooperation and mutual growth." She paused, looking around the chamber. Thousands of eyes, sensors, and other organs of perception focused on her. "We do not ask for charity," she continued. "We ask for the chance to prove ourselves, to contribute, to learn from your civilizations and share what we have learned. We believe that together we can build something greater than any of us could build alone." Silence followed her words. Then the High Speaker made a sound. It took a moment to understand what it was. Laughter. The crystal creature was laughing. 200 years, the High Speaker said. You have traveled the stars for 200 years, and you come to us speaking of contribution. They were building starships before your world had cooled from its formation. They had conquered 100 systems before your species existed, and you believe you have something to offer us. Other council members joined in the laughter. Clicking sounds, low rumbles, flashes of colored light. Each species expressed amusement in its own way, but the message was the same. They were mocking her, they were mocking humanity. Felt anger rise in her chest, but she kept her face calm. This was expected. She had prepared for this. We are young, she admitted. We do not deny it, but youth is not weakness. Every species here was young once. Every civilization had to begin somewhere. Indeed, the High Speaker said, and its voice had grown cold. But most civilizations that come before this council have something to show for their youth. Great works, military strength, scientific achievements that matter. You have none of these things. You are, if I may speak plainly, a promising footnote in the galaxy's history, nothing more. The laughter came again, louder this time. The High Speaker raised one crystalline limb. The council will deliberate on your petition. You will wait outside until we summon you. This may take some time. Perhaps you can use the opportunity to reflect on the difference between hope and reality. Was escorted from the chamber. The doors closed behind her with a sound like a tomb sealing shut. Thomas looked at her with worried eyes. That did not go well. Stared at the closed doors. Behind them, the most powerful beings in the galaxy were deciding humanity's fate. They saw humans as insects, as jokes, as footnotes. They had no idea what was coming. It went exactly as expected, she said quietly. Now we wait. 3 hours passed in the waiting chamber, sat on a bench made of cold stone while Thomas paced back and forth across the floor. The room had no windows. The only light came from glowing panels set into the ceiling. It felt like being inside a box, waiting to be opened or thrown away. Used the time to review her files. She read reports about each council species. She studied their military capabilities, their trade networks, their political alliances. Most importantly, she studied the hegemony. They were not the oldest species on the council, but they were the most aggressive. They had built their empire through conquest. 2,000 years ago, they had been a single planet. Now they controlled over 300 star systems. They had absorbed dozens of weaker species into their territory, using some as workers, others as soldiers, and a few as examples of what happened to those who resisted. They were coming to today's meeting with a purpose, was certain of it. The doors finally opened. Facilitator stood in the entrance, its blue eyelights glowing steadily. The council has reached a preliminary decision, said. You will return to the chamber to hear it. Stood and followed the facilitator back through the winding corridors. Thomas walked beside her, his face pale with anxiety. Whatever happens, stay calm, whispered to him. Do not react, do not speak unless I tell you to. Thomas nodded, but she could see that his hands were shaking. They entered the council chamber and returned to the petitioner's platform. The atmosphere had changed. Before, the council members had seemed amused, entertained by the presence of the young species before them. Now there was something else in the air, tension, anticipation, like predators watching prey that did not know it was being hunted. The High Speaker did not rise this time. Instead, another figure stood from a different section of the chamber, recognized the species immediately. The representative was massive. It stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in natural armor that looked like plates of black iron. Its head was broad and flat, with 4 eyes arranged in a line across its face. Each eye glowed a dull red. Its hands ended in claws that looked capable of tearing through metal. I am War Commander, they said. Its voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. I speak for the hegemony on matters of security. Felt her heart beat faster, but she kept her expression neutral. I am honored to meet you, War Commander. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. Honor, yes. The humans speak often of honor. It is a word used by the weak to make themselves feel important. He stepped forward, moving to the edge of his section's ring so that he loomed over the chamber. The council has discussed your petition, continued. Many of my fellow members believe you should be rejected outright. You have nothing to offer. You bring nothing of value, but I have convinced them to give you another option. Waited, saying nothing. The hegemony offers humanity a place under our protection, said. You will become an associate territory of the hegemony. Your worlds will remain yours, but they will be administered by oversight committees. Your military forces, such as they are, will be absorbed into the hegemony defense fleet. Your technologies will be shared with the hegemony for evaluation and improvement. In exchange, you will receive full protection from any external threat and access to hegemony trade networks. Thomas made a small sound of shock, raised a hand slightly to silence him. And if we decline this generous offer? She asked. His 4 eyes seemed to glow brighter. Then you will face the galaxy alone, and the galaxy is not kind to those who stand alone. He pressed a control on his armored wrist. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, visible to everyone present. It showed a star map, and at the center of the map was a yellow star that recognized immediately. Sol Earth Sun, humanity's home. Around the star, 87 red dots blinked in a loose formation. The hegemony has maintained an observation fleet at the edge of your home system for 6 standard months, said casually. Purely for scientific purposes, of course, to study your development, but those ships carry enough firepower to reduce you to ash in less than 1 rotation. The chamber was completely silent. Every council member watched the display, waited to see what she would do. You are threatening us, said calmly. I am explaining reality, replied. The galaxy operates on simple principles. The strong survive, the weak serve or perish. Humanity is weak. You have no fleet capable of challenging even one of our cruisers. You have no allies who would risk war with the hegemony for your sake. You have nothing but words and hope, and neither of those stops weapons fire. He spread his clawed hands wide in a gesture that mimicked generosity. Accept our guidance, ambassador. Join the hegemony willingly, and your people will be treated well. Resist, and you will learn why the galaxy fears us. Looked at the holographic display. 87 warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. Each one crewed by soldiers who had been fighting wars since before humans discovered electricity. She thought about Earth, about the billions of people watching this moment through her eyes, about the colonies, the space stations, the dreams of a species that had only just begun to reach for the stars. Then she thought about something else, something that made her want to smile, though she kept her face perfectly still. War Commander, she said, I thank you for your offer, but I must decline. A ripple of surprise passed through the chamber. His eyes narrowed. You decline, he repeated slowly. You understand what you are saying, you understand the consequences. I understand perfectly, said. Humanity will not submit to the hegemony, we will not surrender our sovereignty, we will not become servants in our own home. Stepped back, and for a moment he almost looked pleased, as if he had been hopping for this answer. Then you have chosen destruction, he said. My fleet will. Before you finish that sentence, interrupted, I need to make a call. The war commander stopped. His 4 eyes blinked in confusion. A call? Yes, just a brief one. It will only take a moment. She touched the communicator on her wrist. She spoke 7 words in a language that had not been used on Earth for over 1,000 years. A dead language, preserved only in encrypted files, known only to a handful of people in humanity's intelligence services. Then she lowered her hand and waited. Stared at her. What game are you playing, human? No game, said, just patience. She counted silently in her head. 1, 2, 3. She reached 43. Suddenly pressed a claw to the communication node implanted in his skull. His massive body went rigid. His eyes widened. Repeat that, he growled to whoever was speaking to him. A pause. That is impossible, check again. Another pause, longer this time. When spoke again, his voice had changed. The arrogance was gone. In its place was something had never expected to hear from a warrior. Fear. What have you done? He asked, staring at. What is happening to my fleet? Smiled, it was not a warm smile. I was hoping you would ask, she said. The council chamber exploded into chaos. War Commander was shouting into his communication implant, demanding updates, demanding answers, demanding explanations that nobody seemed able to give him. Other council members were activating their own communication devices, speaking in urgent tones to their governments and military commanders. The high speaker rose from its seat, its crystalline body pulsing with agitated light. "Order," the speaker commanded. Its voice echoed through the chamber with enough force to shake the walls. "There will be order in this chamber." Slowly the noise died down, stood frozen in place, his 4 eyes fixed on with an intensity that should have burned through her skull. But she did not look away. She stood on the petitioner's platform with her hands clasped behind her back, waiting calmly for the chaos to settle. "Ambassador Vance," the High Speaker said, "you will explain what is happening immediately." "Of course, High Speaker," replied. Her voice was steady. "But first, may I ask War Commander to share what his fleet has reported? I believe it will provide useful context." All eyes turned to the warrior. His armored hands were clenched so tightly that could hear the plates grinding against each other. "My fleet," said slowly, "has gone silent." A murmur rippled through the chamber. "Silent?" the High Speaker asked. "Define silent." "Every ship, every system. Weapons are offline. Engines are offline. Navigation is offline. Communication is limited to emergency channels only." His voice grew rougher with each word. "They report that their vessels have been completely disabled, locked out of their own systems, unable to move, unable to fight, unable to do anything except float in space and wait." "Casualties?" another council member asked. This was the representative, a species known for its scientific achievements and its calculating nature. "None," admitted. "Life support remains functional. The crews are alive and unharmed, but the ships themselves are useless. 87 warships, the pride of the hegemony border fleet, reduced to metal coffins in less than 1 minute." The chamber fell silent again, could feel the weight of thousands of stares pressing down on her. Every species in the room was recalculating, reassessing, trying to understand what had just happened. The High Speaker turned its glowing face toward her. "Ambassador Vance, explain." Took a breath. This was the moment she had been preparing for. The moment humanity had been preparing for since the day they first detected alien signals from the depths of space. "For 200 years, she began, humanity has known that we were not alone in the universe. We intercepted your communications. We studied the wreckage of ships that drifted into our territory. We decoded your histories, your warnings, your records of species that rose to power and then vanished." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We learned many things from those records. We learned that the galaxy is old and full of dangers. We learned that empires rise and fall like waves on an ocean. And most importantly, we learned that the weak do not survive. Not for long, not without protection. And protection must be earned or taken. It is never given freely." Made a growling sound. "You speak of weakness while my fleet lies helpless. What trickery is this?" "No trickery, War Commander, just preparation." Looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes and sensors of each council member in turn. "When humanity began building its first interstellar ships, we made a decision. We would build 2 fleets. The first fleet would be visible, small, modest, unimpressive. The kind of fleet that a young species might be expected to have. The kind of fleet that would make other civilizations feel comfortable, feel superior, feel safe." She let the silence stretch for a moment. "The second fleet was different. We called it the Quiet Fleet. For 150 years we have been building it in secret, hidden shipyards in the spaces between stars. Vessels designed not for traditional combat but for a different kind of warfare. Electronic warfare, cyber warfare. The kind of fighting that happens in milliseconds, in the gaps between thoughts, in the signals that travel from one system to another." The representative leaned forward with obvious interest. "You infiltrated the ships through their communication systems." "We infiltrated them before they ever arrived at Sol," said. 6 months ago, when the hegemony border fleet took up position near our system, they thought they were sending a message of strength. They were actually giving us access. Every signal they transmitted, every system they activated, every update they received from there, all of it carried our code. Tiny pieces of programming, too small to detect, spreading through their networks like seeds in a garden. His claws scraped against his armored chest. "Impossible. Our security systems are the most advanced in the galaxy." "Your security systems are excellent," agreed. "Against the threats you know about, against conventional attacks, conventional infiltration, conventional warfare, but you have never faced an enemy like humanity before. We do not fight the way you expect. We do not build the biggest weapons or the strongest armor. We build the smallest weapons, the quietest weapons, the weapons you never see coming until they have already won. She gestured toward the holographic display that still showed the 87 red dots around Saul. Right now, those ships are completely under our control, not destroyed, not damaged, simply sleeping. Their crews are alive, their supplies are intact. They could be reactivated at any time if we chose to do so, or they could remain silent forever. The choice is ours. The High Speaker's crystalline form flickered with complex patterns of light. Recognized the pattern from her studies. There was processing information at incredible speed, running calculations, analyzing probabilities. You have had this capability for months, the speaker said slowly. Why reveal it now? Why not strike first? Why not destroy the fleet and remove the threat permanently? Because destruction was never our goal, said. We did not come here to make enemies. We came here to ask for a seat at this table. We hoped that our request would be granted fairly. We hoped that we would not need to demonstrate what we could do. She looked at, but the war commander made it clear that fairness was not available to us. He offered us a choice between submission and destruction, so we showed him a third option. And what option is that? Demanded. Smiled again. This time there was warmth in it, but also steel. Respect. The word hung in the air like a physical thing. Humanity does not wish to rule the galaxy, continued. We do not wish to conquer or dominate, but we also refuse to kneel. We refuse to beg. We have shown you today that we are not the helpless footnote you believed us to be. We have capabilities you did not imagine, technologies you have never seen, and we have patience, more patience than any of you can understand. She turned back to the High Speaker. The Quiet Fleet has been watching the galaxy for over a century. We have mapped your networks. We have studied your weaknesses. We have prepared responses to threats that have not yet emerged. Not because we wanted war, but because we knew that one day someone would try to take from us what we had built. And when that day came, we wanted to be ready. The chamber was utterly silent now. Every council member sat frozen, processing the implications of what they had just learned. Let them think. Let them understand. Let them realize that the galaxy had just changed, and there was no going back to the way things had been before. Finally, the High Speaker spoke. What do you want, Ambassador Vance? Lowered her head slightly in respect, then raised it again. I want to finish making my case for humanity's membership in the Galactic Council. I want you to listen. And I want you to understand that from this moment forward, humanity is no longer asking for permission to exist. We are informing you that we do exist, that we will continue to exist, and that anyone who threatens us will discover exactly how serious we are about protecting what is ours. She clasped her hands in front of her. Now, shall we continue our discussion? The council chamber remained in stunned silence for nearly a full minute. Could see the council members communicating with each other through private channels, exchanging glances, making subtle gestures that carried meaning in their respective cultures. They were trying to figure out what to do next, how to respond, how to handle a situation that none of them had ever encountered before. A young species, barely 2 centuries old, had just humiliated one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, and they had done it without firing a single shot. The High Speaker finally broke the silence. Its crystalline body had stopped flickering and now glowed with a steady, cold light. Ambassador Vance, you have demonstrated a capability that changes our understanding of your species. But capability alone does not earn trust. We require more information before any discussion of membership can continue. I understand, said. What would you like to know? Everything, the High Speaker said. The full extent of your hidden infrastructure, the location of these secret shipyards, the number of vessels in your so-called quiet fleet, the range of your infiltration capabilities. If you wish to be treated as equals, you must prove that you can be trusted with that status. Had expected this demand, she had prepared for it. I will share what I can, she said, but I will not share everything, just as I am certain each member of this council has secrets they do not reveal to the others. A rumble of agreement passed through the chamber. Every species here had hidden capabilities, concealed weapons, secret programs. It was the nature of galactic politics. The Quiet Fleet currently numbers approximately 4,000 vessels, continued. They range in size from small infiltration craft to larger support ships. None of them are designed for direct combat. They carry no heavy weapons, no shielding systems, no armor worth mentioning. In a traditional battle, they would be destroyed in seconds. Made a harsh sound of contempt, then they are worthless. Against your definition of warfare, yes, agreed. But we do not fight your kind of war. Our vessels carry different weapons. Electronic intrusion systems, nanoscale infiltration drones, signal manipulation technology, weapons that do not destroy ships but instead turn those ships against their own crews. She pulled up a new holographic display, showing a schematic of a warship. Consider your flagship, War Commander. A magnificent vessel, powerful weapons, strong armor, a crew of thousands. It takes years to build such a ship, billions of resources, the combined effort of your entire industrial base. The schematic zoomed in on a tiny point on the ship's hull. Now consider this, a drone the size of a grain of sand. It attaches to your hull during routine supply transfers. It burrows through microscopic gaps in your armor. It reaches your main computer systems and installs a simple piece of code. That code does nothing for months, maybe years. It waits, it watches, it learns. The schematic showed lines spreading through the ship like blood vessels. Then, when we decide the time is right, that code activates. In less than 1 second, it takes control of every system on your ship. Your weapons fire at your allies. Your engines burn at maximum thrust in random directions. Your life support begins venting atmosphere. Your communications broadcast false orders to the rest of your fleet. She turned off the display. That is how we fight, not with strength but with patience, not with fire but with silence. We plant seeds and wait for them to grow. By the time our enemies realize they are under attack, the battle is already over. The representative raised one of its thin appendages. This is a troubling capability. How can we trust that you have not already infiltrated our systems? How can any of us feel safe knowing that you could disable our fleets at will? You cannot, admitted. Just as I cannot feel safe knowing that the maintain 87 warships at my doorstep. Just as none of you feel safe knowing that your neighbors have weapons capable of destroying your worlds. Trust in the galaxy has never been based on safety. It has always been based on mutual vulnerability. She spread her hands. But I can offer you something that the old order never provided. Honesty. I am telling you exactly what we can do. I am not hiding it. I am not pretending to be weaker than we are. Humanity has spent 200 years pretending, and it has brought us nothing but contempt. Today, we stop pretending. The High Speaker processed this for a moment. You speak of the old order. What do you mean by this? Felt her heart beat faster. This was the crucial moment. The turning point that would determine whether humanity's gamble had been worth taking. I have studied your histories, she said. All of them, the archives, the conquest records, the fallen civilizations you preserve as warnings to others, and I have noticed a pattern. She began to walk slowly across the platform, her voice growing stronger. Every great power in this galaxy rose to dominance through the same method. Conquest, exploitation, the strong consuming the weak, species climbing over each other to reach the top, and then spending the rest of their existence trying to keep others from doing the same thing to them. She stopped and faced the council. They built their empire on the bodies of species they destroyed. They rose to power by manipulating younger civilizations into conflicts that weakened them. Even the peaceful species here, the ones who claim to value cooperation, they all reached their current positions by stepping on someone else. No one disagreed, no one could. This is the old order, continued. A galaxy based on fear, a galaxy where every species must either become a predator or accept being prey. A galaxy where trust is impossible because everyone knows that everyone else is waiting for a chance to strike. She pointed at. They came to Earth's doorstep because that is how the old order works. Find the weak, threaten them, absorb them, or destroy them. It is the only pattern this galaxy has ever known. Then she lowered her hand. But it does not have to be the only pattern. Humanity is offering something different. We have the power to cripple any fleet in this galaxy. We could use that power to conquer, to dominate, to become the new predators at the top of the food chain, but we choose not to. Why, the High Speaker asked. Power seeks expansion. This is a universal principle. Because we have seen where that principle leads, said. We have read the records of the vanished ones, the species that were here before any of you, the ones who built civilizations so vast that they spanned entire galactic arms, and then they disappeared, all of them. Every single species that reached that level of power eventually destroyed itself. She let the weight of those words settle over the chamber. Humanity does not want to disappear, we want to survive. And we believe that survival requires something more than strength. It requires cooperation. Real cooperation. Not the kind where the powerful exploit the weak, but the kind where everyone benefits, where trust is possible because everyone has too much to lose by breaking it. The chamber was silent, but it was a different kind of silence now. Not shocked, not hostile, thoughtful. "You are proposing a new order," the High Speaker said slowly. "A fundamental change to galactic civilization." "Yes," said, "I am proposing that we stop being predators and start being partners. I am proposing that the Council stop treating membership as a prize to be earned through conquest and start treating it as a responsibility to be shared. I am proposing that humanity join this Council not as a footnote, but as an example of what the galaxy could become." She looked around the chamber one final time. "We have shown you what we can do. Now let us show you what we choose to do instead. Give us a seat at this table. Let us help you build something better. And in exchange, we will share our technologies, our methods, our vision of a galaxy where strength is measured not by how many enemies you can destroy, but by how many allies you can build." The High Speaker turned to face the rest of the Council. "We will discuss this proposal," it said. "All of it. Ambassador Vance, you may remain in the chamber while we deliberate. This time you will not be sent away." Nodded and stepped back to the edge of the platform. Thomas leaned close to her. "Do you think they will accept?" he whispered. Watch the Council members beginning their discussions. Arguments were breaking out in several sections. Some seemed hostile, others seemed intrigued. A few, she noticed, seemed almost hopeful. "They will accept," she whispered back, "because they have no choice. The old order has been broken. Now they must help us build a new one or be left behind while we build it without them." She allowed herself a small smile. "Humanity did not come here to beg for a seat at the table. We came here to reshape the table itself." The deliberations lasted for 9 hours. Stood on the petitioner's platform for all of it. Her legs ached. Her throat was dry. But she did not sit. She did not ask for water or rest. She watched every argument, every debate, every shift in the political winds that blew through the Council chamber. They were the most hostile, had recovered some of his composure, but his demands grew more desperate as the hours passed. He called for humanity to be declared a threat. He demanded that all Council species combine their forces to destroy the Quiet Fleet before it could strike again. He warned that allowing humans into the Council would be the beginning of the end for galactic civilization. But his arguments fell flat. Every time he threatened military action, the other Council members remembered what had happened to his fleet. 87 warships disabled in seconds. If humanity could do that to they could do it to anyone. War was no longer an option. They were the most curious. They asked dozens of questions about human technology, human history, human psychology. They wanted to understand how such a young species had developed capabilities that surpassed civilizations millions of years older. Answered what she could, and admitted ignorance where she genuinely did not know. They remained neutral throughout, their crystalline forms revealing nothing of their internal calculations. But noticed that the High Speaker listened carefully to everything she said. It was processing, analyzing, making decisions based on probabilities that no other species could comprehend. Finally, as the 9th hour drew to a close, the High Speaker rose. "The Council has reached a decision," it announced. The chamber fell silent immediately. "Before I announce the result, I will summarize the key points of our deliberation." The speaker's body pulsed with light. First, the matter of the fleet. The vessels remain disabled in human-controlled space. War Commander has demanded their immediate release as a condition of any further discussion. Tense slightly, this was the moment of truth. "The Council has rejected this demand," the speaker continued. "The fleet entered human territory without invitation. Its presence was an act of intimidation, if not outright aggression. Under Council law, humanity has the right to treat these vessels as potential threats and respond accordingly." Made a sound of fury, but he did not speak. Even he knew better than to interrupt the High Speaker. "However," the speaker continued, "the Council requests that Ambassador Vance provide assurance regarding the crews of these vessels. Their lives must be protected." "They will be," said. No harm will come to any crew member. The ships will be returned to the hegemony once we have established formal diplomatic relations. Until then, they will remain disabled but functional. This is not punishment, it is insurance. The speaker nodded, a gesture it had learned from studying human communication. Second, the matter of humanity's hidden capabilities. Several council members have expressed concern that the Quiet Fleet represents an unacceptable threat to galactic stability. If humanity can disable any fleet at will, no species can feel secure. Waited, her heart pounding. After extensive discussion, the Council has concluded that this concern, while valid, does not justify exclusion. Every species on this Council possesses capabilities that threaten others. They have their war fleets. They have their predictive technologies. They have their genetic manipulation programs. Humanity's approach is different, but it is not unique in its potential for harm. The speaker paused. What is unique is humanity's willingness to reveal its capabilities openly. In 9,000 years, no species has ever come before this council and admitted to the full extent of its hidden weapons. This transparency, while perhaps strategically unwise, demonstrates a commitment to the principles of cooperation that humanity claims to value. Felt a wave of relief wash through her, but she kept her expression neutral. The speaker was not finished. Third, the matter of membership. Ambassador Vance has requested full membership in the Galactic Council for Humanity. This request was initially rejected on grounds of insufficient development and contribution. The speaker's form flickered with complex patterns. However, the events of this session have demonstrated that our initial assessment was incorrect. Humanity is not a promising footnote. Humanity is a significant power that has chosen to hide its strength rather than display it. This choice, in itself, reveals much about human character. The speaker turned to face directly. The Council has voted. By a margin of 9-3, with the hegemony, the collective, and the Confederacy opposed, humanity has been granted full membership in the Galactic Council. The words echoed through the chamber. Heard Thomas gasp behind her. She heard murmurs spreading through the observation galleries where representatives of lesser species had been watching. She heard something that might have been cheering from the human delegation's communication channel, transmitted across light years from Earth. But she did not smile. Not yet. She knew there was more. Additionally, the speaker continued, the Council has voted to create a new body. The Security Directorate will be responsible for addressing threats to galactic stability that transcend individual species' interests. Humanity has been granted 3 seats on this directorate, equal to the representation of the and the. Now allowed herself to smile. 3 seats, equal standing with the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. It was more than she had dared to hope for. Finally, the speaker said, the Council has agreed to discuss Ambassador Vance's proposal for restructuring membership requirements. The current system, based primarily on military and economic development, has been criticized as encouraging exactly the predatory behavior that Ambassador Vance described. A committee will be formed to examine alternatives. The speaker lowered itself back into its seat. Ambassador Vance, do you have anything to say to the Council? Stepped forward. She looked at each section of the chamber in turn, making eye contact with every species that had eyes, acknowledging every consciousness that watched her in whatever way was appropriate. I thank the Council for its wisdom, she said. Humanity did not come here seeking conflict. We came here seeking partnership. Today, that partnership begins. She turned to face directly. The warrior had not moved since the announcement, his 4 eyes burning with barely contained rage. War Commander, I know that this outcome is not what you wanted, but I hope that in time you will come to see it differently. Humanity does not seek the destruction of the hegemony. We have no interest in revenge or humiliation. Your ships will be returned. Your crews will be unharmed, and if you choose, we can begin building something that has never existed between our species before. Trust. Said nothing, but noticed that his claws had unclenched slightly. Perhaps that was something. She turned back to the full council. For 9,000 years, this chamber has witnessed the rise and fall of empires. It has seen wars that burned across entire star systems. It has watched species destroy themselves and each other in the endless pursuit of power. She spread her arms wide. Today we begin writing a different story. Not a story of conquest, but a story of cooperation. Not a story of predators and prey, but a story of partners and allies. It will not be easy. There will be setbacks. There will be those who cling to the old ways, but humanity believes in this future and we will work to make it real. She lowered her arms. The galaxy is vast and full of dangers. Some of those dangers come from beyond our borders, from the empty spaces between galaxies where things move that we do not understand. We have seen the signals. We know what is coming. A shiver passed through the chamber. Every species had detected those signals. Every species knew that something was out there, something ancient and powerful and unknown. When that threat arrives, said, we will need to stand together, all of us. Not as rivals competing for dominance, but as a united civilization defending our shared home. This is what humanity offers. This is why we built the Quiet Fleet, not to conquer but to protect, not to rule but to serve. She stepped back to the center of the platform. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing hope over fear. And thank you for giving humanity the chance to prove that we are worthy of your trust. The chamber erupted in response. Some species applauded in their own ways. Others remained silent, still processing what had happened. A few, including the delegation, entirely. But did not care about the ones who left. She cared about the ones who stayed, the ones who were willing to try. Thomas moved to stand beside her. We did it, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. We actually did it. Nodded slowly. She looked up at the vast dome of the council chamber, at the lights that had witnessed 9,000 years of galactic history. No, she said quietly, we started it. The real work begins now. Somewhere out there among the stars, the Quiet Fleet waited. 4,000 ships, hidden in the dark, watching and waiting for whatever came next. They had announced humanity's presence to the galaxy. They had proven that humans were not to be dismissed or conquered. They had earned a seat at the table. Now they had to earn everything else. But as Vance looked around the council chamber, at the ancient species who were beginning to see humanity in a new light, she felt something she had not felt since she was a child looking up at the night sky. Hope. The galaxy had mocked humanity. Seconds later, entire fleets had gone silent. And in that silence, a new era had begun.